Well, let's talk about what would be the purpose of economic development. I mean, we depend, in my opinion, way too heavily on our homeowners, primary and secondary homeowners, to provide the tax base for all of the things we need to run this county. You can compare us with just about any other county, and what you'll see is that our percentage of revenue that comes from homeowners is disproportionate to what comes from what you might call industry or commerce. And this puts a particularly heavy burden on the 6%ers. I mean, a lot of these folks are part-time residents, and they don't use as many services as full-time residents, so we really like to have them. They're great. You know, they're paying taxes and they're not here all the time. But the tax burden on them is becoming pretty intolerable. 4%ers aren't doing too badly, but the 6%ers, and that's over half of the homeowners, are really hurting. The history of all that is when the state law was changed to take the school burden off of the 4%ers. The idea was some of those folks were about ready to get taxed out of their homes, and so it was done with the best of intentions. But the unintended consequence, of course, is that you got the 6%ers that are loaded up. So the reason we want to have economic development is to make the tax burden a little more equitable in the county. How do we do it? Well, I think most folks know that we've been struggling with that one for I don't know, a couple of decades, and we've had some successes, but certainly not the level that we'd like to have. And I like to go back to 2002, 2003, 2004, when we set up the New River TIF. I believe that one of the most critical things to do to bring economic development to Beaufort County is to work on the education or the quality of our workforce. A lot of folks come and take a look, and what do they see? They see a workforce that in their opinion is just not up to whatever it is that they need, and they go somewhere else. That's not the only problem that they have, but that's certainly a big one. And of course, that speaks to K through 12, and our school board is working on that, and they've had some successes this year, and we just had a state of the schools meeting last week, and they had a lot of good things to say. So K through 12 is moving along in a positive way. But I think the secondary, post-secondary education is huge, and that involves TCL and USCB. If you look at a lot of communities that are doing extremely well, oftentimes they have a university. They have a university that has a national reputation. And our USCB is certainly moving in that direction. And I mentioned the New River TIF because if it weren't for the Beaufort County taxpayers, there would be no southern campus of TCL or USCB. The taxpayers of Beaufort County stepped up, go back there, and set up the New River TIF. And today we have a beautiful southern campus of both USCB and TCL. Now today, USCB, I think, has just hit a milestone of 2,000 students. That's not FTEs, but the FTEs are up there, 1,800 maybe. But they're growing, and it's growing at a faster rate than other universities that are comparable. So the potential is there. The potential is there to turn it into a real premier university right here in Beaufort County. Sad thing is that the university system is just simply not going to fund it to the extent that it needs to grow as it can. So I believe, and this is my opinion, that if USCB is going to grow and be the institution that we need to attract economic development, that Beaufort County is going to have to step up in some form or fashion and fund the growth that it needs to do what we want it to do. And the same with TCL. So educating our workforce is huge in my humble opinion, as my daughter says. I-M-H-O. I didn't know what that meant, so she told me. Another thing is we have to provide safe and adequate infrastructure. I mean, our infrastructure is getting overwhelmed. We're growing almost exponentially, particularly in the Bluffton area, and our infrastructure is getting overwhelmed. I mean, we could go on and on about areas that are deficient. I mean, we just finished the Bluffton Parkway flyover. and that's taken maybe 25% off of 278, and that's huge, and that helps a lot. We just got a huge grant, or $18–19 million grant to extend the runway for the Hilton Head Airport. And I have to tell you, if you want to bring folks in here with a lot of money that spend a lot of money and invest a lot of money, they have airplanes, and they like to have an airport. So I'm happy to see that. So now another thing that we're spending money on, and this is kind of interesting, is Highway 17 going into Georgia from I think it's Highway 320, Georgia Highway, or South Carolina Highway 325. That stretch of 4 or 5 miles in there, and anybody who travels that knows it's a death trap. I mean, who wants to come here if they have to go back and forth to Savannah on 17? It's in Jasper County. So what we've done, and I voted for it as a member of the MPO, a Metropolitan Planning Organization, to commit our funds for the next 10 years just to fix that one problem. So it'll probably be another few years before it gets done, but at least the funding is there, and it will, it'll happen. It will happen. So that's, and then you got other infrastructure that we don't have funded yet that's crying out to be replaced or fixed, and of course the Hilton Head bridges are an obvious example. I mean, that's going to be a huge undertaking, and I know the SCDOT is looking at it, but where's the funding going to come from? So we're going to work on that. McGarvey's Corner. I mean, McGarvey's Corner is already a failing intersection, and that's huge. And all of this infrastructure, Ladies Island, the bridges and the roads on Ladies Island are just crying out for repair and expansion. The traffic is getting really bad there. And so we're going to have to do something about this. We have all these infrastructure issues that we have to deal with in order to make ourselves attractive to bring folks here. Another thing that I think is a real potential for attracting, for economic development, is if you look at where the jobs are right now, the manufacturing job, the blue collar jobs, they're not in Beaufort, they're in Charleston, and they're in Pooler. Most people never heard of Pooler a few years ago. Now Pooler is ground zero for economic development in Chatham County. And we have a huge number of folks that drive to Charleston every day, drive to Savannah every day. And my thought is, I wonder how many more people would go there if they had transportation. I mean, not everybody's got a F-150 and they can run to Charleston and back every day. Does it make sense? Would it make sense to have maybe Palmetto Breeze do a study to see if it would make sense to start adding a run to Charleston or to Pooler? I don't really know the answer to that, but I think it's worth taking a look at, because the whole purpose of economic development, aside from making the tax burden a little more equitable, is to provide jobs for our kids. Most of us have kids, and I don't know too many of my contemporaries who have kids that they think that their kids are going to have jobs here. They're just not here, and and who wants to see their kids disappear? Well, a few might, but most don't. I certainly don't. So that's another area I think we take a look at, which is public transportation. And then what about the type of communities that people want to come to, the walkable, self-contained communities? There are some in Beaufort County, there are a few, but I think we need a lot more. And our Community Development Code, which we passed into law last year, encourages that sort of thing, the walkable, self-contained communities. And I think we're going to see more and more of those, and that's going to attract folks, because economic development is a process of attraction as much as it is promotion. I mean, we have a quality of life here that everybody likes. They comes here, but then they look at the cost of living, and that's a negative, and they wonder, is the workforce up to whatever it is that they need? And these are questions they have to answer. And of course, the quality of life we have depends on water quality. I mean, we have to improve and correct our water quality issues, because when you have more people, you're going to have more water quality problems. And we're doing that. We're doing that in several ways. We're doing it with the Rural and Critical Lands Program, where we're buying up land and preserving it so that it can't be developed and it can't impact our water quality. We're applying for community development block grants as often as we can to extend sewer service to the areas that are on septic tanks, because there's no way you can argue that if you load a place up with septic tanks, it's not going to adversely affect water quality, because it is. There's no septic tank that's ever been built that doesn't fail eventually. So we have a lot of failed septic tanks. So that's an area that we're working on, but it's to improve water quality. And of course our environment. We have to improve maintain and improve our overall environment. We have a beautiful environment here. We have, it's to die for, but it won't be to die for if we don't protect it, if we're not conscious of it 24/7 and do everything we can. And of course the Rural and Critical Lands program helps that a great deal as well. And one other thing that I think is very important is, and it's been featured a lot in our newspapers, and that is lack of workforce housing. I mean, that's a problem that isn't new, but that's something we're focusing on, particularly in the Community Development Code, which emphasizes and encourages that very thing. So that's something we're going to have to look at as well. We need to continue to work hard to expand our Wi-Fi and internet-related infrastructure, because we have some areas of this county that do not have Wi-Fi or internet access. And we have some programs in conjunction with the school district and the library that are reaching out to those folks to provide them with internet access, and that's going to help a lot in terms of developing our workforce. So.